Okay, so what I'm going to do for episode 4 is I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. We're going to talk a lot about theory and application and practice with these PM2.5, PM10 sensors, but I want to show you a little bit about what I'm learning. So RASCAL stands for the Remote Assessment of Silica Controls to Alert and Learn. And so we're going to talk about the learn. I'm going to show you a few things that I've been discovering, or at least that are real but maybe hard to explain. So I want you to understand that, again, I'll show you this in future episodes, but think about this. The PM10 concentration that I get from either the Dylos silica sensor or the RASCAL system can be converted to a respirable dust estimate. So PM10 to respirable dust. And what I'm going to show you is we'll just do a qualitative thing, but just keep that in mind. So for one of my Dylos here, you can see here the number. Let's see here if we can look at it this way. This number on the right is the PM10. The number on the left is PM2.5. The first video I'm going to show you, I'm going to walk around somebody using a grinder, and I'll show you the graph, and I'll show you how the particles are spread out in a spray kind of application. And then I'll show you a few more things. But it's very important, this is just an add-on here, is one thing to assess about these sensors is how close are they together to their readings. So if you're going to have a system up, you're going to want them to kind of report the same or have about the same correction factor. So here we see these two side by side. This is 45 micrograms per meter cubed, 52, 51 micrograms per meter cubed. So in general, this one here, the beta, reports higher PM10 when you get into the shop environment. And I've done enough side-by-sides where I know that the beta weights more. So that's something you need to know if it's, in fact, it has a variability between the instruments. Now, I did do a side-by-side recently with the Busey and the Hunter RASCAL, and it worked out very well. Maybe I'll throw that in here. But so enjoy this episode. I'm just going to kind of fire at you some things that you wouldn't learn with regular lab integrated sampling. You'd only really see with the sensor system. Okay, so this is the graph. So and I'll show you the video in a second, but if somebody is working on a slab and the dust is flying out kind of in one direction, not 360, if you were to take a PM10 dust monitor and walk around the person, this is what it would look like. It would go up, then it would go back down. So this is the graph from the video I'm about to show you, which I just want to tease it out a little bit that this high velocity tools are shooting out the particles in a direction in like a ray or a spray pattern. Okay, I wanted to next briefly talk about this
concept or result or quality of stone fabrication and how the silica laden dust could travel about. And this is 5 sensors, H, B, S, J, and SS spread out. This literally happened the day after I set them out. We had a high dust creating tool, the fans were off, and the dust started traveling down here, and you can see it in the next slide here, kind of blown up. So you can see the blue J sensor first gets triggered, got a very high peak, and then as it travels to the S orange sensor, you can see that it is the next to get hit at a lower level, and then the next to get hit is the red one at a little bit lower level, and then by the time it gets to the green one, you can see the green here, it now has made its way to the other direction to the purple SS sensor, and you see a big hit there. So this was really striking and amazing, especially learning about the effect of fans, but the revelation that somebody doing work over here could have a major effect on people working over here. But I just wanted to tease this, and this and of course the other thing that I just showed you about how if you walk around a shaper, it's directional. The dust to kind of put these things together to quick show you some examples. I didn't want to tackle these at the end. I didn't want people to lose interest. That is just going to be a bunch of introduction and stuff on sensors. I wanted to show you kind of in the real world how we can learn from that. All right, so now here is the mystery, and this one's kind of got me befuddled. I put this in a photo. I might go to the PowerPoint because this is a little blurry, but I wanted to be able to zoom in and zoom out. So tell me how this makes sense here. So we have a person grinding over here. Now to kind of orient you, so here he is on the layout. Here's the Busey sensor. There's the Sakis, and you can't see the other two. So he starts grinding, and look at what happens here. The sensor that gets the biggest hit is the one that's farthest away. So the green hunter is the one that gets a big jump. And now Busey, and these arrows are where the outlet is pointing as they're hanging up. So in this particular day, the Busey outlet is facing the work here. So we do see a jump here. But the other two, the Sakis and the slingshot, the orange and the yellow, barely trigger anything. So this was really baffling to me. How does the work here make a little bit trippy here and then an explosion here? Well, these kind of remain unscathed. There's several theories here. Now I did learn later on that they did not have these fans on that are in this wall, and so that could have something to do with it as well. But then I want to show you here. So now here's another example. Now in this case, this is later on, I switched Busey. Now I have the outlet going in the other direction. But now he is here next to Busey, and now he's going to be using a blade. So this is a little bit different now. This was grinding, the first example. Now he's got a blade, he's cutting. But here we see again that Busey is the major accumulator of dust or signaler of dust, and now we do see Sakis this time get a little bit of a hit, and Busey nothing at all. And unfortunately, Slingshot was not available for this, but I learned this was kind of around the same time, and they're kind of slow putting the fans on, but the fans were off again in this situation. But this is the mystery, and these are the things that I think to really figure out how to control the dust and protect others, because one of the big themes that I want to highlight here, and I've learned with these sensors is that you're sampling somebody, their exposure, their lab, their compliance sample result could have been almost entirely dictated from work going on not around them, from somebody else. So you look at something like this, um, somebody apparently standing over here is getting the brunt of it, which is counterintuitive and, like I said, a bit of a mystery. One of the things I wonder is if the dust and the water mixture are traveling, and they're traveling maybe lower than the sensors, and then as the water droplets dry, the dust is released and picked up over here. That's one possibility. Now I want to show you a little bit more, but so this is, I think, really fascinating and just highlights the complexity and how you really just can't take lab samples, especially not just lab samples of respiral crystalline silica without your respiral dust level. You're really flying blind, and you may be making false assumptions that what the person was doing was the major contributor to actually their exposure. Okay, now here's another um, example or display of physics and, again, the qualities of different tools in different ventilation setups and different tool controls. I'm trying to digest this one just as well, so I decided to do a little bit of dust making myself. And so what you see here is this is me, and the sensors are still in that not corners, but in a box location. And what I also did is I kind of put the Dylos silica around my neck and kind of in front of me. And so I did some wet grinding of myself, and that's what, so this graph here, now 1600 PM10 is, you'll learn as you watch my episodes and things, isn't very much. It's not too bad here coming up, I guess you could say, at my face, right? Now this is interesting. These are the RASCAL sensors, and we get a little bit of a hit right there by me, and then Slingshot here makes its entrance as the next, and then Saki's, and here we have the Hunter, the one that was very popular last time, doesn't get much at all. And this is not surprising now because the wall fans, which are out of view here, were on, the doors were open, and I even felt like the breeze was kind of blowing it maybe this way a little bit, just the natural general dilution breeze. So now this here is, I'll show you what this peak is, but these were two other times of wet grinding, and sometimes I move the monitor kind of by my shoulder to not get it too wet from the spray. Now, so this is just a reminder, this is what I showed you before. Now we see a completely different dynamic when the fans are off. Now this door was open, still in that case, but remember this is what I just showed you about the sensor the farthest away from the grinding lit up. Okay, so this second peak here, now I just moved over a little bit and did some more wet grinding. And again, now this is probably, this lower peak here at Busey is probably because I moved a little bit away from it. Here we still see Slingshot. Now here Hunter has now surpassed Saki, so isn't that interesting? So this is the kind of data that you can get. This is the kind of awareness of where the dust is going based on where the person's standing and the tool that they're using, and whether the fans are on and fans are off. So this is I'm going to keep saying it's a complex ecosystem. And so now here is, I did a little bit of dry, just a little bit in that location. And so here you see the wearing the beta shot way up. I'll get to this next. But notice here, this is interesting. You see how these kind of all are in line, but at different levels previously. This one, you can kind of see that. But now here we've got, now it's kind of shuffled. The Busey triggers, now then Hunter is triggered, and Slingshot and Saki's. And I wonder if, this is my kind of read on this, is it possible that when there's no water, the dust is kind of uniformly shot out more in all directions? You know, does the water kind of carry it along the pattern, the way that the water is being thrown? But this, I think there's something significant with this of the sensors and the change when I went from wet to dry. But again, it's just all speculation, but this is good foundational knowledge. Now later on, I came back and did some dry. Doors were closed, no fans, and now suddenly Hunter becomes the dominant sensor, and we see Saki's and Slingshot and Busey get involved at a later date. So here I am, and I'm just making a little bit of dust. I'm not a professional, but now we see a completely different dynamic with and the changes. The fans are off, and the doors are shut. So this is the kind of data and the insight that I think we need to learn about and figure out different ways we can control the dust and reduce everybody's exposure. So I hope you stay with. Yeah, so this is, again, when I was wearing the beta. Here you see significant dust coming up at me. This PM10, this is not respirable dust, but 40,000 compared to a little bit lower here. That was still pretty bad. But again, the main takeaway I think with this is, we know dry grinding is bad for the operator, but now what does it mean for the other people, and even wet grinding? What does it mean with the fans if they're on or off? Who is that going to affect in the area? So I hope you stay tuned and learn as I learn as I go through this, and we start to figure out what are the best ways to tackle this problem of too much dust in the stone fabrication business.